Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the QRL Show Live. Myself and Michael Strike from the QRL Core team are joined again by Post-Quantum Cryptography expert and QRL Technical Advisor, Dr. Joseph Kearney. For those viewing, it is good to have you with us, and we're a few minutes delayed on today's live stream, so thanks for bearing with us. For those that are joining in, probably people coming in a couple minutes after trickling in. But guys, good to have you with me. We got a number of things to talk on for today's QRL live show. First off, there's some quantum news. We can discuss a few exciting areas around being, almost on the cusp of 8 years of QRL. We got some exciting content coming out later this week. Yeah, good to have you guys with me.
Good to be here.
Yeah, yeah, good to be here. Sorry for the delay. Sorry for the delay, community. The digital roadies took a little bit of extra time to set up the equipment and had some problems. All good.
Yep. Yeah. So, first on kind of our docket here, we got, if I share screen here, we'll go, we got the, main first area we'll touch on is we got a little bit of quantum news, a little bit of crypto news, and then we can jump into kind of the main parts of the conversation for today. Um, uh, First off, there's quite a bit going on, obviously in the summer, with the ebbs and flow of crypto and blockchain. First piece of quantum news is one that probably people have been seeing in the news, which is the executive order. U.S. government, obviously, U.S. is just one country of many, but it's one that kind of pushes a lot of weight on the global scale. An executive order came out specific around quantum, both money funding going towards it, and then also action that will be needing to take place by companies, institutions, big orgs, all of the above to post quantum by XYZ date. So Michael or Joseph, any commentary on this one? Michael, what's this one meaning?
Obviously, a trend, more capital, more visibility, quantum being taken more seriously, stronger narratives, timelines being moved forward, not back. Timelines being moved forward. Uh, I mean, this is why we put this is why the projects exist. This is something that was foreseen or wasn't as obvious as it was during Project Genesis in 2018, but there were dots. There at the time kind of looked like a little bit of noise, but there was a probabilistic series of events. Uh, more, it, there's an obvious. The trend is obvious, guys. We're moving towards a post-quantum secure future. At some point, it might be, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, the word um, post quantum security or post quantum cryptography will the word quantum will probably end up being removed from cryptography because quantum cryptography will become the new classical cryptography. So it's June 24th, 2026. That's my prediction. Joseph, anything to add?
I think the interesting part of it for me was the fact that it looked at both sides of the coin. So you've got the part where, cool, we're going to be putting a lot of money into quantum computing as the future. We can do incredible things that we can't even conceive yet with this technology. But on the other side, you're going to have to be ready for it. And I think that's the critical part. And it was almost refreshing to see that side of things. Like, it would have been so easy to put out a statement, oh well, we're going to invest a load of money into quantum computing, and that's all well and good. But then there's the other side, which is the fact that you need that post-quantum element. Like, we don't know what these devices are going to be used for and what they're going to be capable for in 10, 15, 20 years time. But the shortest term use case, and this is the critical part, the shortest term use case is cryptanalysis. Shor's algorithm acting on factoring, prime factoring, and discrete log problems is one of the simplest things that a quantum device can actually do. Like, it's what they're capable of doing in the very, very much nearer term than we probably feel comfortable with. I mean, even if it's 5-year timeline, that is quite close with how fast time seems to be flying.
I think the year 2026 is kind of the year quantum's reached its critical mass. You don't even necessarily need to believe that quantum computers are real, or that cryptographically relevant quantum computers will ever exist. You can believe that they're unicorns. At this point, it doesn't really matter. Governments are already making the decisions to go post-quantum secure. Corporations will follow government, and retail will follow, and retail as part of corporations will also follow government, and that'll affect that has a causality that'll affect open source, that will affect everything. Post-quantum security will become the new classical security. But yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just to chime in here on this as well, it's directionally we see where the puck is headed, but in 2026 we've seen, in 2024 we're like we all three of us in our project, and we've been in this space for many years of seeing talking about this when much less care at all was given to it, and we've seen that start to change more and more over time. If you were to tell someone that putting politics aside, a sitting president is saying quantum cryptography, like in a public executive order or something, or you see in France, for example, in the next quantum news story, that or any other country on a national level is saying, hey, here's this thing that around security that we need to make this transition, this move to be in post quantum. So it's showing as an added part along with everything else we've discussed in previous lives over the last X number of years around what the importance of being post quantum is. It's all kind of just an added, rock to the next one on top. It's stacking on top of each other. Fill in the blank with the analogy, but it's just showing directionally where things are headed. Jumping out of this news story, if I jump back to the slides for one moment here, we got, obviously the big news out of the U.S. here, which ties to a lot of areas globally. Another news story in recent weeks since our last live was, France with stopping certified products that aren't quantum safe encryption. Not just touching on this one, but we see a number of flavors to this. It seems almost every few weeks, whether it's a specific nation or whether it's a specific company that's saying, hey, we need to be post-quantum by fill in the blank, 2028, 2029. What's your guys' commentary in general for when you guys see this? We're clearly going to see more of these, whether it's from a country, next month, but we're seeing more and more of these. So what's your guys' take?
It does kind of beg the question at this point, like for the non-believers in post-quantum, the migration and movement to post-quantum cryptography, and I'm not talking just about blockchains here, talking about like global infrastructure, begs the question: at what point do you start believing this? I don't want to say hype, but believing that we need to do this as soon as possible. When you've had Google, you've had Cloudflare, you've had the president of the United States speaking and putting out executive orders on it. You've got Etsy, you've got NCSS in the UK. You've got people moving this timeline closer and closer. At what point do you start believing that actually these things are a lot more imminent than potentially we thought? I mean, I've been in this space long enough that this has been a 15-year away thing for 15 years upon 15 years upon 15 years, and it's pushed further and further back. We're now at the point where we've reached that. To what you were saying about critical mass, we've kind of got to that point now where this is getting scary. Like, and I mean that in the least trying to FUD way possible. If these timelines are progressing to the point where people are talking about 2027, 2029, in 2027 to start discounting quantum vulnerable products that's next year.
We're in 2026, everyone.
That's in 6 months time. Like we're over halfway through the year. Like that's next year, and equally 2029. I mean, even if you're taking the back end of the year, that's only 3.5 years away. That's a long time, and I think it's a combination of the kind of what we're saying about like cryptanalysis is the main element that we know we can use these devices for. So the amount of research that's gone into Shor's algorithm, bringing back that timeline, it's happening on an algorithmic side, it's happening on the hardware side. We've got neutral atom quantum computing that's coming to the forefront. There was a brilliant post by Alex Prudham from Project 11, I previously worked for Project 11, but brilliant post looking at why neutral atom quantum computing is going to be, at the very least, the short-term winner. And it's all these things that are kind of lining up in such a way that these timelines are compressing. I personally don't think 2029 will see a CRQC, but I don't think it'll be very long after that. I think early 2030s. I don't think it's going to be the typical 50% probability by 2035 as cited by Mike Mosca. I think we're
what was it this year? We also started open sourcing quantum circuit optimization, right? With Google's zero knowledge proof using AI. I think the last time I checked, there was 43% improvement. So it's not just corporations and secret agencies. Working on this problem, but you have open source community emphasis and cycles being sent on optimizing what we know to exist. So this is the first year I've seen that happen.
Yeah, I think jumping in a few minutes, we'll obviously jump into, right now as of filming this, it's Wednesday, 24 June, 2026. We're 2 days out from 8 years of QRL, so we'll get into that in a minute. We just touched on, obviously relevant quantum news on the crypto side, so a little bit of crypto catch up. I think the main, this kind of rhymes a little bit with what we just touched on with quantum news is obviously at Strike. We pulled up one story, which was this is a work in progress in terms of the Clarity Act within the U.S. So anything to note on this one, Strike? This just ties to how digital assets are seen within the U.S.
Yeah.
As I just mentioned, it's currently in progress, so we'll see in the next couple of months what happens here. But the U.S. crypto atmosphere and how tight or loose things are has an impact on the global market. So anything to add on this one, Strike?
I think this is one of the most significant pieces of U.S. crypto legislation that's going through Congress. The goal is to create like a clear, predictable federal rules around digital assets. So it's not yet law. It still needs to go. I think it still needs to go through the Senate vote and through the
period,
House, and it requires a president's signature. But one of the positive things was it gives a safe harbor and exemptions for developers, certain fundraisers, people developing blockchain technology, to be able to develop the code without the variability of the legal liabilities, which creates a strong incentive in order to reduce the risk associated with writing code of blockchain tech. So overall, this should be very positive for crypto and blockchain.
Yeah, and how this relates to us, and when I say us, I just mean like the industry. Putting politics stuff aside, this is specific to like the blockchain industry, as Michael just alluded to. It's whether some for developers, for others, it's aiming to give, as it's called the Clarity Act. They're saying whether people agree with parts or all of what it's after. Just trying to, we know that the U.S. has for a long time been very murky in terms of people being like, how is this even perceived? It's kind of very muddy. So hopefully that and many other things as we go will start to give some confidence in people understanding, okay, hey, this works, this doesn't. But outside of that one, I think a really big area I want to touch on, we're within a live right here, and this is super exciting, is for those that are in our community, you've been keeping up to date with the progress of where things are headed with QRL 2.0. But we are 2 days out from, as we just talked on, we've been talking about post-quantum and where cryptography meet for many years at this point. Myself and Michael have been, talking on it, early on when not as many people knew what it even was, or they looked at us like we had a tinfoil hat and we're like, these guys are
2020 maybe
talking about the future. Joseph, probably, I can only imagine when you went home, Joseph, 10 plus years ago, and you told the family, I'm going to be going into post-quantum cryptography at the university. I'm sure they might have had to do a little Google research on what that is. A couple family members at the, the Thanksgiving or the Christmas dinner table. So Guys, first off, eight years of building quantum safe future, Strike, coming up on 8 years, and then the white paper even going back further than that. So really 8 years of hard work in the making to where we got to this point. Michael, lead us into this one.
Conception 10 years ago, Peter Waterland, right? Genesis was 8 years ago. That might not seem a lot, but in blockchain years, in or altcoin years, that's a long time. And we're still going strong. We've got QRL 2.0 coming out. We're wrapping up. We're under 2 third-party independent audits, right? Halborn and Trail of Bits. No other project in the ecosystem. There is no other project in the entire ecosystem in the world that is an L1 post-quantum secure since Genesis using government-grade cryptography that's undergoing 2 independent third-party audits. In my opinion, that shows a degree of credibility, transparency, and also if you consider the fact that we've had the same message, or I've been talking about the same content now for 6 years. The message hasn't changed based on the narrative or the popular opinion, or it hasn't waffled. It's essentially been the same thing. So, like I said, this is our anniversary episode, and that's one thing I'm proud to be aligned with, is something that's principled, open source, independently audited, and has had a consistent message that has been accurate. So that's my take.
And for those upcoming on the QRL on the actual day on the anniversary, we're going to be coming out. We'll have a new piece of content with the 3 of us on here that is all on covering the core problem with migrating classical blockchains, bringing them over to post-quantum. So we'll go through another number of the potential ways in which projects might want to go about doing that. Zero knowledge. We talk about we'll list them all. This will be in an upcoming video later this week. Michael or Joseph, I think I want to port back to you, Michael, in a minute in terms of talking about, some of those humble early days to leading up to where we are now and where QRL ports into with 2.0. But I want to jump to you, Joseph, for a minute. Can you, for the audience, we're at 2026 now. We've just laid a little bit of the high level groundwork for, wow, we've got up to this point where much more of the world is caring about post-quantum and cryptography and where that comes together. Can you paint a little bit of a picture for us for what did post-quantum cryptography look like in 2016? And, how have you seen that evolution over the last decade? Because I think that it's always easy to look back in hindsight and say, oh, it was all obvious, or I should have been in Bitcoin in 2009 if only, or, I was into post-quantum, but we have a situation here where the 3 of us are like, we've been in this space for a while. Paint us a little picture of that and that'll lead us up to today. This is more so post-quantum cryptography, and then that leads into where we're at.
Yeah. I mean, 2016, I don't even think the NIST competition that standardized FNDSA, FNDSA has not been standardized yet, but SLHDSA, MLDSA, I don't think that competition had even started, or if it had, it only just begun. The options for NIST standardized post-quantum cryptography was virtually zero, apart from XMSS and maybe a couple of other schemes that were not possible really to use in blockchain technologies. In 2016, I don't think the first paper actually even discussing this had been considered. Like, I don't think it actually even been released. I think it either got released end of 2016, maybe beginning of 2017, discussing this around Bitcoin specifically. So, I mean, like, it's one of the things that's always I've only directly been involved with QRL for 6 months now. Been a fan for a long time, cited in a lot of my papers. But the foresight, that's the impressive part, is the foresight for this to be what it is today. That's impressive. Like, to say that there is actually a post-quantum blockchain that's been going for 8 years. That's been for 8 years from Genesis. That's impressive. That's incredibly impressive. But from that perspective, like, post-quantum cryptography itself, some of the schemes that we know and use today didn't even exist potentially, or were in the academic field, were in academic laboratories rather than in the field. I mean, most of these quantum computing companies were either not in existence or were very, 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 very early stages. This field barely existed. Like it barely existed, and it certainly didn't exist within the blockchain space. And it's only been really in the last two years, maybe year and a half, that it's actually come to prominence. And I think that's in combination with the quantum computing industry progressing and just a realization that this could actually be a substantial threat to blockchains in general.
One thing
So,
I
Michael,
did
anything to piggyback on that one?
was the AI innovation. When we started doing content, Ryan, we've had a consistent message. I did not see AI being as progressive, as influential, as pervasive as it is today, and I think that's only going to accelerate the timeline as it connects dots faster than connects dots in order to arrive at solutions faster than a person could.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that little touch on part there. So, just even timeline, a lot of you are up to speed on, where AI's ported in here. But if we look back, obviously, initially, the idea stemmed from, Peter, 2016, 2018, Genesis block. A lot has happened between the 8 years there. When we get to around 2019 and going into 2020, we've been talking publicly in video content and various forms since that point. The AI part that Strike just mentioned, obviously you had the idea of artificial intelligence stemming back there, but really in terms of the mainstream, ChatGPT didn't come out until late 2022, and really over that next couple months, that morphed up there, and really then even so in the last year or two, that's even taken another level. So where that meets with post-quantum is, it's obviously still a lot to be determined, but it's just another layer in terms of the continued progress of where things are going. One thing, is there anything, this is more so just to, Michael, I want to get to, the 8 years of QRL, which is super exciting. We're going to have, for those watching you right now, we're going to have an announcement blog coming out later this week that touches on the 8-year anniversary. Some of you that have been in the community quite a long time, you've seen some of these from our past anniversaries. Joseph, is there anything that has surprised you in terms of people being a bit more open to post-quantum cryptography overall? I know post-quantum cryptography can fit a few different lanes, obviously specific to blockchain, but it's specific to security and a number of areas. But is there anything that overall in 2026 especially has, up to this point, has surprised you of like, wow, people are taking to it a little bit more than I might have thought? This could be something specific to blockchain or just in general.
I think it's a lot of the big foundations that are actually taking this seriously. Whether that's Solana, the Ethereum Foundation laying out their plan, Ripple, so on and so forth. Like the seriousness with which those industries are, those cryptocurrencies are taking it. Like actually, it's kind of gone from groups of researchers writing papers on how particular blockchains are vulnerable, gone from, well, mainly me writing those papers, like looking at how it's kind of gone from that, going back to what I was saying about like post-quantum cryptography. It's gone from like universities, researchers designing these post-quantum cryptographic schemes. That same transition has now happened for looking at this specifically for blockchains. It's gone from a very, very select group of people writing papers to actually now a very wide range of people researching this, whether that's people from Blockstream, for example, doing a lot of research in the area, whether that's new companies like Project 11, whether that's some of the like major post-quantum audit companies such as Halborn, really taking this stuff seriously. I mean, like, for example, we've had multiple incredibly engaging conversations with Halborn on this particular topic, and it's a massive. I think it's just the education level on this throughout the industry has just increased dramatically over the last 2 years, and particularly in 2026, you can see that going higher and higher.
Yeah, no, I completely. I want to jump to Michael. I want you to jump into this one, and then I actually want to jump back to. There's an important piece of quantum news that we actually didn't even cover on the docket, which I'll jump to. But Michael, take it away for a minute here.
Let's distill this. Let's distill this down a lot. Let's take out quantum. Let's just remove a lot of the complexity. 4 days ago, CZ floats the idea of confiscating Satoshi's coins. Now, Satoshi, the creator of Bitcoin, right? That is not an idea that just pops out of nowhere. The reason the idea was floated was because of property confiscation, which is because of the post-quantum secure threat, which is because at some point you're going to have to do something with the legacy transactions, which is about the property confiscation, property ownership, the ideology, philosophy, all of the stuff that we've been talking about is the reason that idea was floated. That is not something you would have heard 5 years ago. That would have erupted in chaos. 3 years ago, that would have erupted in chaos. Now it's being floated as a possibility, and we're talking the idea being floated of confiscating the
creators,
the founding fathers, creators that created and sparked blockchain ecosystem, a $2.5 trillion industry, is because of the quantum threat. Yeah. So it was proposed as an idea. It's a controversial idea, but we've been talking about this now for years. I have, about property confiscation, the possibility of post-quantum security, rewriting blockchain ideologies and philosophy. Honestly, it was 2026. In 4 or 5 years, I don't think that blockchain and Bitcoin will mean what it does today. I think that there's historical monetary precedents that show that when centralized affluent entities start to gain leverage over something that is money, the principles of what it is become slowly compromised. You can see this through monetary history, from through the Roman Empire, through coin clipping, through Bretton Woods, through temporarily going off the gold standard. We all know we've talked about monetary history before. This is happening in real time. The thing with QRL is post-quantum secure since Genesis has none of these issues. And I'll offer one more idea that's a bit speculative, and it is argumentative. I almost see post-quantum security as like blockchain 2.0, in that it's kind of resets the classical cryptographic vulnerabilities that have existed up until this point, and kind of resets into a new ecosystem. Now that's arguable, and I kind of see it that way. Do I think that there's I think that ultimately the two will coexist, classical for some time, classical and quantum. I don't know what it looks like in 3 to 5 years, but at the end of the day, QRL becomes your hedge against those risk exposures. So
yeah, I'll we're gonna
quite a bit there, probably a little more than.
No, I want I mean, heck, if any viewers want to have a 2-hour economic discussion with Strike and I, that's if you ever go to for coffee or for a meetup of crypto or blockchain, you can talk our ears off on those subjects all day. One important, we touch on quantum news in the beginning of our live episode today. Another important quantum news story that I saw someone just posted, I'll show this on the stream. Big update from QEra. I butchered this name a little bit, but I'll just show on screen real quick, because actually this was recent news as of today. This just kind of shows the every day, every week, every month, we're getting new news stories. They just came out with, obviously their road. For those viewing that are like, what's that? What's QEra about? Their approach is neutral atoms. So if I show on screen here, this is from, I think this is from their slide earlier today. They kind of just, what they're saying is 256 logical by 2028 will be available. So this is like allegedly under construction by them. They're aiming, what does it say here? 1,000 logical qubits by 28, 29. We'll put we can have a link to this in the show notes as well. But this is just another example among many that, as we touched on earlier, there's different quantum computing companies that have different approaches. Whether I'll just exit the screen out here for the stream, but I just wanted to bring that one up because we saw a question from a user. But there a lot of these approaches that some might seem like they're kind of like a horse that's in the back and then they kind of speed up. Other ones will, as we've seen in the novel approaches on the cryptography side, we've seen orders of magnitude brought down. So there's a lot of things coming together. Obviously, the AI element that we just talked on a couple minutes ago. Getting back to 8 years of QRL, Michael, can you touch a little bit? It's as I alluded to 5 minutes ago. It's easy to look back in hindsight and say, hey, it's easy to say now that post quantum's a thing, but can you touch a little bit on the importance of obviously being early is one thing, but you kind of gotta go a little. We've had to go a little bit blinders to people being like, this thing's 20, 30 years out. You guys are fudding. Even at conferences in person, people are like, oh, are you guys building the quantum computers? And it's like, no, we have a solution has from the very beginning protected against it. So there's 3 parts within that, but please build on this because I think this is important. A lot of our community already knows that, but some of the viewers that are coming in and being like, I want to pay attention to post quantum now. Let's fill them in a little bit. And then I want Joseph from the post quantum cryptography perspective to piggyback on that a little bit.
One of the hardest things to do in nascent tech is to build a accurate or reliable view of what the picture looks like. When I started mining Bitcoin in like 2013, I started becoming interested in, for whatever reasons, getting just stoicism and get into the root nature of things as a reductionist. I ended up at quantum computing and just trying to get to the root of reality. And I had connected the dots with around 2016 or 2017. I recognized Shores and correlated that with blockchain and the DSA. And I started like, hey, this would be a fun project. And I find QRL, which had just gone Genesis probably like 6 months prior, and I ended up joining the community. But one of the most difficult things is to accurately predict where technology is going to go, because first off, it's complex. Second, has a lot of moving parts. Third, there's a lot of actors involved. Fourth, there's a lot of private interests. And fifth, it's just difficult to do. If I wanted to align myself with a person or project in order to get an accurate picture of to what the future looks like, I would care about what their track record looks like in the past. And when we started making content 6 years ago, we were making content to an absent audience. Those videos are still on YouTube. And but there was you and I approached this with conviction, and I approached it with Joseph. You essentially are building a career out of it, building a career out of this. I took a career pivot as a network engineer for over 20 years. And I've been working more and more and more on the post-quantum threat because I have that degree of conviction that I'm right on this. And it's slightly validating a little bit to kind of see uh, things pop into place, but at the same time, um, it seemed in hindsight that it was statistically predictable. But that's kind of a little bit of history. I think that's what your question was, but
Yeah, no, I want to
go ahead.
port to Joseph in a second, and then I want to for those viewing this, we have a few questions that came in from the community, a couple Discord DMs of a couple questions around, hey, the stage of I'm looking to build, like where are we at with QRL? So we'll get to those in about 5 minutes. So if you're viewing, definitely stick around. I'm gonna before I get to some of those questions and our Q&A section. Joseph, anything to add on to that? I know we're a little high level, and then coming into the weeds, back to the clouds type thing a little bit.
I think just kind of going back to that other news article about QERA that was brought up by Archer in the chat. Like the beauty of having multiple screens can just read some of the like really high level parts of it. And the thing, it's not so much the number of logical qubits that are going to be available; it's that error rate. That error rate is another order of magnitude down. Once again, showing that neutral atom quantum computing can potentially take us a lot faster, a lot further, which is not. It's not surprising that Google, in the same week or 2 weeks apart, reduced their timeline for migration down to 2029 as they pivoted to neutral atom quantum computing. And I think this is another point in that area, and that's a 1 in a million error rate. But looking at the thing that you showed on the screen, Ryan, then they're looking at 1 in 10 billion error rate a few, like 2 years later, and that's when you take into account that's unerror corrected.
Yeah.
Once you start factoring error correction into there, that's when you start broaching on the borderline of being able to run Shor's algorithm. And that's today. God, like we don't know what that's going to look like in the future. But I think kind of going. This is we're almost waiting on that black swan moment. And that isn't how security migration should happen. You should take into account the shortest timeline, and it's something I've been saying for a long time, is that as a blockchain, due to being immutable, due to being permissionless, due to your users having to migrate themselves, you can't rely on what timeline you have to think of. You have to take the most credible, shortest timeline. And if Google's saying that's 2029, then Google's saying that's 2029. And I'd consider Google, Etsy, like Cloudflare, I'd consider them trustworthy actors in this situation. That was slightly off topic, but it was an interesting thought from that QERA post that I had.
Yeah, no, and I'm just going to add on to that part, if to give like a visual for those that are viewing, if for especially going back a number of years, if you were to look at the amount, how what level sufficiently powerful quantum computer that's cryptographically relevant to be able to use Shor's algorithm to crack. It's like if at whatever year, whether it was like 2018, 2019, even years going dating back to that, they were looking up the hill and being like, oh, well, until it's up to that level of power, this is never going to be possible. But what we're seeing is, if you're looking at my hand up here, we're seeing in recent months, the recent like time, and even upcoming, that bar is just getting dropped more and more. So if we're at a track and field event, and you're looking at, you're standing next to an Olympian, and you're like, wow, that bar is really high. What's happening is with each of these new, novel ways about lowering it in order of magnitude, we're staring at that high bar, and it's just getting lowered. And it's like, whoa, what we initially thought was, and I'm simplifying here, but what we initially thought was at, 1 million is now at 100,000. And it's like, we're going to see that continue as we go. To what extent, that's to be determined a little bit. But as that's happening, the quantum computing companies are making more progress too. So it's not a static thing. It's dynamic there. So obviously, from a technical perspective, there's much more nuance to it, but there's importance within there. I want to jump to, for the community, and those that are viewing with us, I want to jump right now to a section that those that are joined our live, we call this Superposition Society, or Q&A, where the community can consist, everywhere all at once at the same time. It's kind of a fun way of doing it. First question I'm going to ask you guys, this was one that came in. I'll read it out for those that are just listening in the earbuds, but governments are moving to post-quantum, pushing the envelope there from a national level. Do you think this helps post-quantum adoption in blockchain? So I think they're asking here specific to blockchain. So I'll summarize it with all the progress that we're seeing from the U.S., from France, from fill in the blank, with them all saying, "Hey, we got to be post-quantum." Do we think this helps adoption overall for post-quantum adoption, particularly to blockchains? How do we think it ties and correlates?
It's one-way cryptographic function. It forces it. You don't have to believe anymore. It shows it's essentially showing you what I mean. What do I say? Showing you what the future is, what it's going to be. It's creating regulations around what cryptography looks like.
Joseph, anything to add on this one? I think it's a good question.
I think it's that regulation element. I mean, we spoke about the Clarity Act. Like obviously around that Clarity Act, when it first started kind of gaining a bit of pace, there was people within the US government looking at the post-quantum aspect of it, and now with this new executive order, whether one will be linked with the other. At the end of the day, if we're moving towards a world that's more blockchain enabled, where we've got stable coins being used as a payment processing mechanism across the globe, but the underlying technology is vulnerable and the upgrade path to that is incredibly difficult, where does that leave the regulation side of things? And I think it's a curious, like, going back to the question, does it help with PQ adoption? I think it does and it doesn't. It does I agree with you, Mike. It almost forces it. It's almost a one-way door. Like at the end of the day, if the government, while blockchains are designed to not be beholden to governments and so on and so forth, we now live in a world where we've got ETFs and Bitcoin is in pension pots, and we're integrating stable coins just about everywhere within payment processing. It is now part of the financial machine, whether that's liked or not. But it also adds that additional pressure, because the upgrading a blockchain is very different to upgrading a bank infrastructure, and how that regulation shapes up. If you use the same regulatory hammer for blockchains as you do banks, then it may put additional unwanted pressures and difficulties on that process.
So essentially, I mean, and that's a fair point. So essentially, you're drawing a distinction between cypherpunk ideology and legislative ideology, right? Which is fair, and I agree.
The question could be interpreted a few ways too. So I don't know. I'm sure to the person that asked this, I'm sure there's further context, but I hope we're able to answer that to the overall for you.
The thing is, the majority of blockchain users aren't quantum physicists, so I think assumptions have to are probably going to be drawn as far as how to move forward, and blockchain should and will adopt the same degree that governments are mandating. So in the original ideology of cypherpunk, it really is more freedom, more transparency, equality, not so much security, not so much independent security. That's why I don't see a conflict there. But yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, we'll jump. We got one or two more here, I think. The next one might have just been a comment that we got in Discord. Let's see here what we got. I'm a developer that's been in crypto for a long time, came across QRL years ago, and like the whole community aura and positivity. Just saying thanks. Awesome. Thanks for being a part, and glad. We mention this usually at the end of episodes, but if you're viewing this, aren't already a member, we got I have a really vibrant, as Michael and I always say, Discord community, a great place to join in on the conversation with other smart people that are forward facing, looking, at ahead of what is to come. So if you're not already part of our Discord server, definitely don't hesitate, join in, ask questions. There's a lot of great conversations in there.
It really is quite positive. If you
Yeah.
have questions about quantum computing, there are some let's say distinguished and educated people within the community. If you have questions about the project, jump into Discord. Your questions will get answered. They won't just get answered; they'll be enthusiastic.
And yeah, and alongside with answers and enthusiasm, I'll piggyback onto this. We had in recent years, we were hoping to have another one upcoming at some point and down the road as stuff continues to build with QRL 2.0 and beyond. But a few years back, we had the first QRL hackathon of those in the community coming together, and I think that's a testament to the type of community we have. There's members that I met from the QRL community that we met in person in Amsterdam, and I had such a great time with them. A number of them I can say great things about a number of them that that are in our community that contribute in different levels. Obviously, there's people that are really have their software developers come from that background. Others come from other career paths. Some from business finance side, fill in the blank, but from all regions of the world. And I've so many great things to say. And so if you're thinking, sometimes it's hard to tie together in an online community, whether we're talking something on Reddit or Discord. Sometimes it seems like there's a little separation between the humans beings behind each handle, and obviously there's going to be some people in there that maybe are someone's coming from I don't know, a burner account from competing project, and they might just want to bash someone for saying something. But really, our community is modded in a way where you come in, you feel welcome, but just think the handles that are alongside that are there's a lot of great people. So I think it's important to speak to that, because sometimes I think we can, whether it's someone that's very comfortable being front facing like Michael and I, or someone that prefers to be behind a keyboard, just know that wherever you sit on that spectrum, coming into our community is a place where there's going to be people that are going to be there for you, whether you're brand new to post quantum or whether you are a post quantum cryptography expert that was a year under Joseph's class and you're like, hey, I like Joseph, I look up to him, I met him my first year, and hey, I want to be in this conversation too. So there's everywhere in between it. So I just like noting on that, because I feel like it's important to know that online you should always feel welcomed in that sense. So a little bit long of a rant, but I'm going to jump to the next question here, and this one will lead to I'll read it out here for those listening. With the latest progress with QRL closer to 2.0, anything new I need to know yet on where to start for building? So Michael, where maybe two questions within this, update people real quickly on later this week coming out, obviously hitting the 8-year anniversary. Where should people start if they are a Solidity developer, there's someone that's looking to potentially build? Give them a place or two to start. I'll show a couple things on screen while you're talking.
QRL 2.0 is currently in testnet. The testnet is if you have a smart contract or an EVM or an ERC20, whatever you have running on Ethereum now, we have streamlined and made it as easy as possible to take your existing Solidity code, recompile it into what is proprietary, known here through our Hyperion compiler, and put it into testnet. We are giving you the opportunity for first mover advantage into a pure post-quantum secure ecosystem without the classical vulnerabilities that exist today in 99.99% of other chains. So we've made this as easy as possible. We're undergoing 2 independent audits right now. We're waiting for those to be completed. At some point, there will be a block stop. Essentially, QRL 1.0 will stop. There'll be a cryptographic cache, and the chain will restart start a new Genesis chain, and will be post-quantum secure again. It'll be QRL 2.0, and it'll be a pure ecosystem with EVM smart contract availability. So if you want first mover advantage, you can start testing that today and hit the ground running with post-quantum secure DeFi or post-quantum secure real world asset RWAs, whatever. We've made the process as easy as possible. So that's my take. I'm not a developer, otherwise I'd already be on there. I'm an engineer. I don't write code. GW Basic isn't relevant anymore. So
yeah, and for those that are wondering, if you, speaking of joining the Discord community, you can ask questions in there. There's support, whether you're a junior dev, been around the block for a long time, extremely veteran, anywhere in between there. You can obviously visit the QRL.org. You can port through there to go to check out documentation, read through, and see. That's going to continue evolving as we get closer and closer to mainnet. Right on screen here, we just got some basic links here if for those that want to reference them. Obviously, for continued, if you prefer video content, obviously we got the QRL YouTube show that has record shows that date back many years. We have live shows such as this stream that we have with Joseph, Michael, and I. Really, just for those that are viewing this, I know as we close out this episode, it's an exciting time overall. Obviously, we're playing a long game here. I'm sure everyone viewing this and the three of us at certain times were like, hey man, it would be nice if this quantum thing moved along a little bit quicker. But in reality, there is it's a process that takes time. There's a lot of moving parts. We can generally see where the direction of stuff's headed, but there's no, taking a shortcut is not really feasible in terms of both on the quantum side in terms of progress, but you can start to see that stuff's ramping up in a good direction. So I think from our work of 8 years going on strong with QRL, as Michael alluded to, 8 years in some industries might seem like it's kind of a newer, or it's a teenager, but in crypto, it's kind of like we're kind of that old guy that has been around. And there's not as many projects that have been around with an active chain since that long that have been preaching something that is coming more and more closer to becoming a reality in the coming years up to come. So if you are already in our community, tip of the hat to you for being with us during that time. We have a lot of exciting stuff coming up with mainnet. Michael and Joseph, really appreciate you joining me on a live to have a conversation, and we look forward to hitting this 8-year anniversary coming up later this week, and to the next year, to the next 8 years and beyond. There's going to be a lot of exciting stuff coming up, heck, in the next 8 weeks, the next 8 months with mainnet and beyond. So I appreciate you two taking the time to chat for those viewing us. And until the next episode live or upcoming in our channel, have a great rest of the day and keep those digital assets post-quantum secure. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.